All right, so here we are, part two. So welcome back, guys. So here we are, part two of the video. I thought I would do a little video of the feud history with the graveyard and descendants while we're here. So as you can see, I'm here at the cemetery. This thing, I'm still trying to figure out how to work it. But as you can see, I'm still at the cemetery here with Devil Anse. You can be able to see it. This thing is not cooperating for me today. But anyways, I want to take you on a little tour. Come on, for real. All right, so here we are at the cemetery. I want to show you this grave first. This is Captus Capt. I'm not quite sure how he pronounced his name, but he was the first buried up here in 1891, and that's how this became our family cemetery shortly after Georgia Ann. And from my understanding, both of these two are in the famous family photo that everybody knows the most of and sees the most. This was Cap's son, from my understanding, and there's some controversy about his death and how he died. I'm not going to go into all that because there's so many theories and who knows what's the truth. But anyway, he was the first one buried here. Of course, he was only 7 years old, unfortunately. A lot of people back then died of dysentery and all kinds of malnutrition, all kinds of things. But anyway, so of course we have Devil Anse, my zoom back out, my great grandfather, his third son on there, Robert L., which is Robert E. Lee Hatfield. That was his third son, named after General Lee from the Confederacy. He was my great grandfather. He had two sons, John and Craig, and John is my grandfather. So that's how I come down. But this, of course, is Troy and Elias. Troy and Elias were Devil Anse's two sons. They passed in Fayette County, West Virginia, over moonshining rights, distributing rights for moonshine. It's Troy and Elias. They had a shootout with the Italians. They actually all died that day during the shootout. And that's when they say Devil Anse really changed a lot after losing his two sons. So that's why that path is here that comes up behind the house. Is every day he supposedly came up to visit Troy and Elias every day. So this one hit him pretty hard. So as you can see, with the erosion and everything, all the headstones are displaced, and there's a lot of work that needs done up here. I had some funding secured to do it, but then when that troll stepped in with their newly created nonprofit, clearly I gave the money back. So anyways, you can see I've even propped some headstones up with a rock in the past, trying to get them. Even my great grandfather Robert's right there is even propped up with a rock. But I did what I could while I had the time. Cleaned up. There's a lot of veterans, not just Confederate, but veterans up here from the Civil War and World War I and II that are buried up here. We cleaned a lot of their headstones. Right here is behind Troy and Elias lies their sister, which I always think that she was Devil Anse's favorite, but who knows. But this is Rose Hatfield Browning. She married Francis Marion Browning. So that's how the Brownings come in. And this is their son. And there's another son, Robert Anse Browning. As you can see, names are recycled over and over and over again. But a lot of people don't realize that there's something on the back of the statue. So on the back of the statue, this is actually their headstone. A lot of people don't understand that, but this is actually their headstone. And on the back of it, of course, you can see it says Captain Anderson Hatfield, 1839 to 1921, and Levi Chafin, his wife, 1842 to 1929. So a lot of people have said, well, why don't you move the statue down so you don't have to climb the hill and all this stuff, but they don't understand that it's actually their headstone for their graves. There's quite a few famous participants in here. Of course, you can see this graveyard goes all the way back up to the top of the hill. But here's one that everybody will be very familiar with. This, of course, is Johnsy, the lover boy. Johnsy, Johnson, there's so many different. His legal name was Johnson, according to the headstone. But of course, we all know him by John C. But he was one who wanted to marry Rosanna, and they had a child, but couldn't. Now, this is his grandchildren. This is Elliot, Margaret Jane, and Daniel. They're his immediate grandchildren. I think they may be from, I can't remember whose line they come from. I can't remember, so I'm not going to put it out there. But here is Anse Hatfield, the one who burned down the home that I'd like to smack for. But he burned down the home for insurance money. Then went to jail for insurance fraud, which is why the original home Devil Anse lived in on the property doesn't exist today, and why I'll have to try to rebuild it one day. And this is his son, Anse Jr. Can't hold the son for the sins of the father. This is Robert Lee Hatfield, of course known as Bob. Again, this is Devil Anse's son who I descend through. The stone was put up by Yule. So I mentioned earlier that Robert had two sons, John and Craig. John is my grandfather, Craig is their grandfather, and that's how Yule comes in. And they are the ones who own the moonshine distillery over in Gilbert. And as far as I know, them and myself are the only direct descendants of Devil Anse in the area that are at least visible that I know of anyway. But you've got Henry and Jean up here. Jean actually had a little museum at the bottom of the hill here in a little trailer for years and years and years. Her husband Henry passed unfortunately before she did. And that's how the neighbor Lucy, who took care of Jean for quite a while, ended up with the cemetery entrance land that we have what's the word I'm looking for? A right to cross. I can't think of the word at the moment. Anyways, this is Jack Hatfield. Kind of crazy seeing my own name on a headstone, but handsome Jack Hatfield. I hope they put handsome on mine, but I don't know. But anyways, he was also a grandson. Him and Henry were brothers. I think they were from Cap's line of children, if I'm not mistaken. Jack, we were able to get a bridge down the road named after him, where his home sat. They took when the coal company went in Crystal Block, they took his land to make a bridge by eminent domain. So I felt it fitting that the bridge be named after him. So I was able to petition the West Virginia Senate and House to name that bridge after him. So that finally got done earlier this year. Y'all might have saw the video on it, but I was very happy and proud of that. So that way the family can live on where it can. We get lots of questions about this fella here because he has such a nice big monument and memorial. And it says, when you look up his death certificate up here, the headstone reads, killed by accident. Wise F. Kimmel. And it was in 1927. When I looked it up, it says he died of suffocation in the mines, but I hear he has a great interesting story as well. I'm not sure, but I think Leo may have done a video on that or wanted to. I can't remember. But there's a lot of people buried up here, not just the Hatfield family. When the coal companies were coming in, they actually were hiring immigrants that did not speak English, so they could not communicate with the Americans already here working in the mines to unionize. So that's how a lot of Appalachia became very eclectic as far as ethnicities. It's a lot more than you would think. We have a lot of Italian influence here, a huge Italian influence, as well as Polish. I mean, there's all kinds of things that mix in. But this, of course, is Willis. This was Devil Anse's last child living. Willis, of course, he was born in 1888 at the end of the feud. So Willis and Tennis were kind of born at the end of the feud when, you know, things had already settled down. So they weren't used to all the heat and drama and danger during the feud time. So, you know, I'm not really sure, but I think they grew up kind of spoiled. So Devil Anse had to take care of a lot of things that Willis and Tennis, his brother, who burned the house down after Devil Anse died. Devil Anse did a lot of cleaning up after these two kids, from my understanding. Willis ended up shooting a guy in Mullins, a pharmacist, who would not prescribe him some whiskey during the Prohibition time. And he served, I think it was 4 years in the penitentiary for it. They say Devil Anse was at the courthouse every day with his rifle laying across his lap during the whole trial. And they found him guilty, but I don't know why, but for whatever reason, the judge came back and only sentenced him to 4 years in prison for murder. So it's quite astonishing that he kind of, in a way, got away with murder. But after that, he was a very peaceful man and changed his life and lived a great life after the fact. But it's definitely an interesting family to be part of, to say the least. There's Troy and Pearl. I know they've got some local relatives who come up here from time to time and try to take care of it. He was a veteran as well. World War II, to be exact. He died in 1973. Pearl died in 2014. And from my understanding, I think Pearl was the last to be buried up here. And it's even printed in the paper that there were to be no more burials in the cemetery after she was passed and buried here. Of course, there's paths out through there that there's graves at. Down through here, there's 3 crosses and a big platform if you go down through the weeded path there, which we are not going to do. But yeah, this is interesting. Johnny Ray Rogers actually had a uncle, Johnny Ray Hatfield, who died at 18. Car fell on him while he was working under it and did not have any support jacks under there as an emergency. So unfortunately it crushed him. But anyways, that's a quick look at the cemetery and some of the descendants and their stories. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video.